very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, for tuning in to Smart 24 TV. It is a Thursday and it's a very special day, of course, for Christians. It's Holy Thursday and we're going into the Easter season. And of course, that means we are getting into another quarter of the year. We've already actually gotten into another quarter of the year. So welcome to the program. And I would like to advise you, if you're not yet subscribed to All Texas Africa, please do it just right now. You can grab your phone right now and simply get to dial *292#. And following the prompts, you can be able to register and get to the Alltex platform to trade on treasury bonds in East Africa. Now, all you need to do is to dial *292# to get your journey of investment started. And when you look at currently the trends that investors are taking, we are getting to see more investors in the treasury bond market. Of course, this being the safest investment in the capital markets. All you need to do is get to transfer those funds now with Alltex from your mobile phone to that Alltex platform and get yourself started in terms of trading. And that means there's definitely going to be a lot more trading for you than ever, with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Alltex East Africa, do something new. And of course, let's get to dive right into the business of the exchanges here in Africa. But before we go ahead to get into the trading here in Uganda, the Uganda Clay Stock and the board, through its board of directors, issued a notice, and this was a profit warning. And I just want to start with this notice because it's very, very important. Now, according to the notice, the board of directors of Uganda Clays Limited wishes to inform their shareholders and the general public that according to the unaudited financial statements for the fiscal year ended 31st December 2022, the company's profit is likely to decline by more than 25%. And this is comparing it with the year 2021. The drop in profit, according to the notice, is mainly due to the shortage of products that was occasioned by the temporary shutdown of the factories to execute extension works. This was exacerbated by supply chain disruptions due to the geopolitical tensions in Europe, where most of the company's equipment and spare parts are manufactured. And further, the notice says that the low economic growth rate due to the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and Ebola epidemic and imparted inflation dampened consumer demand and decreased the company's overall operating and production costs, thus negatively impacting the bottom line. Now, accordingly, the shareholders and general public are advised to actually exercise caution when dealing with the company's securities currently. And the company is leading manufacturer of the quality-backed clay building products in Uganda and continues to operate its plant in Kajansi and in Kamonkoli. The company is also listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange. The shareholders were also urged to contact the company's the company's share registrar and the Securities Central Depository registrars to update their contact details for ease of communication and receipt. That's a notice that Uganda Clays released actually yesterday during the early morning trading here. And as a shareholder, you must keep up to date to what is happening in your company. Remember, we are in the earnings season. This is this time most companies are getting on board to unveil their earnings for 2022, and they are also getting ahead, of course, to organize annual general meetings to approve things like dividends, bonus shares, and so on. So it is a time where you need to keep your fingers crossed and keep your hands on the deck as, of course, you look ahead for what is going to unfold. And so Uganda Clays Limited is saying their profit, according to the unaudited financial statements for 2022, there could be a decline in profit, and that of course could end up affecting the share price of the company on the stock exchange. But that's a caution, of course, coming in from Uganda Clays Limited. But let's get to dive right into what happened on Wednesday, the 5th of April, on the Uganda Securities Exchange. As of course, we get ahead to a very long public holiday from tomorrow. We shall not be having trading in Uganda until Monday, actually until Tuesday. That's when the market will open once again. So it's definitely very important that you get to know what is currently happening. Now, according to the data from the exchange, we had 5 companies participate in trading on Wednesday. And the day ended with at least 4 gainers and 3 losers on the market. The main participants were Bank of Baroda, Stanbic Bank Uganda, Uganda Clays, and Umeme. And when you look at the Bank of Baroda stock, they hit the biggest volume that were traded at over 1.49 million shares traded on Wednesday. They were followed by Stanbic Bank Uganda, and Stanbic Bank Uganda had a total of at least 147,023 shares traded, whereas Uganda Clays had close to 10,000 shares, and Umeme over 4,700 shares. A pretty wonderful day of trading, I have to say. And according to this data, the volumes improved 29%. Of course, courtesy of Bank of Baroda having the biggest share there of the market on the day that ended with wonderful improvement. This wonderful improvement. The turnover as well was improved at a 292% improvement, comparing that with the Tuesday tradings. According to also the data, the capitalization of the market in Uganda went up to over 20 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, let's get to have a look at these participants and the gainers and the losers here. According to the exchange, the top gainers were Jubilee Holdings, the Equity Bank Limited, Nation Media Group, and MTN Uganda. And Jubilee Holdings led the stock with a total gain of 3.21%. Jubilee Holdings Limited stock closed at least 5,191.71 shillings, whereas Equity Bank Limited, the most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, closed at a 0.81% gain, and that was closing at 1,303.60 shillings. And Nation Media Group at a closing price of at least 453.92 shillings, and a closing of an appreciation of 0.77%. At the moment, also MTN Uganda witnessed another major appreciation in price at a 0.45% closing price here on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, as for MTN Uganda, things are getting a little bit better, but quite slowly. The company's stock fell, remember, from 180 shillings in the last at least 4 weeks down to 168 shillings, which has been the lowest price recorded this year for MTN Uganda. However, in the last few days of trading, MTN has been able to pick up momentum. Now, with the trading on Wednesday having a gain of 0.76 shillings, the company's stock rose to 169.13 Ugandan shillings after a 0.45% gain. Now, looking at the day's trading, we had just 4,000 shares traded on MTN, and the day ended with a magnitude of at least 676,682 Ugandan shillings traded. And out of the 22.4 billion shares that are floating currently on the exchange. Looking at the current performance of MTN, we are still looking at a 1-week loss of 0.51%, a 4-week loss of 3.35%, and in 3 months, that's about 6.04%, which is the same as the year-to-date currently. Remember, as I said, they began the year with 180.0 shillings and have since then dropped off at least 6.04% of their price valuation ranking, yet the 11th stock in terms of year-to-date performance on the exchange. Now, MTN Uganda came out very recently, the last couple of weeks, to say that they made a 20% improvement in profit before tax. And much as that was a very good piece of information, it didn't turn out to actually influence the stock's pricing positively on the market. However, there's a lot of hope that the dividend MTN will issue this year will definitely be higher than what we had last year. Last year, they had at least over about 4.7 shillings that were issued for every share. And it was their very first time issuing a dividend because that was their first year on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, currently, the company is also the second most traded on stock in the last one quarter. And within this quarter, from the 3rd of January to the 5th of April, they've had at least over 21.2 million shares traded, valued at 3.81 billion. So MTN is still up for grabs, and if you want to buy shares at MTN, remember to open an SCD account, and you can get to the exchange and choose any stockbroker of your choice and get to be able to buy some stock at MTN Uganda. Last year, we were hoping Airtel Uganda could come on board and also give us some action on the exchange. Unfortunately, that did not happen because of course, the market conditions. And definitely, Airtel Uganda requested for more time, probably to get released this year later on. But that still withstanding, there's still a lot more to actually get to explore on our exchange in as far as telecommunication is concerned with MTN Uganda listing. Now, getting to look at the participants, Bank of Baroda came out really big on Wednesday after the stock actually got to appreciate, at least rather there was no appreciation, the price was maintained at 85 like it has been since October last year. The Bank of Baroda stock has not changed in price even slightly since October. So it's a flat line from October 2022 to April 5th, 2023. The company's stock is one of the most stable on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, yesterday, the company closed with a total volume of over 1.49 million shares. And these shares added up to at least a gross turnover of 126 million Ugandan shillings on the market. The shares outstanding currently are over 2.5 billion, and the company has 213 billion Ugandan shillings market capitalization, making it the 12th most valuable on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, in the last 3 months, Bank of Baroda Uganda is currently the 4th most traded on stock, coming behind, of course, the Wumeme stock, rather Stanbic Bank, Wumeme, MTN stocks. Those 3 stocks coming ahead of Bank of Baroda. Currently, in the last 3 months, they have had at least a volume of 6.17 million shares, valued at 524 billion Ugandan shillings traded over the period. Moving on, the Stanbic Bank Uganda stock was the second most traded on stock after a very huge gap there between their volume and that of Bank of Baroda. Stanbic Bank traded 147,000 shares, above 147,000 shares, slightly to a tune of over 3.09 million shillings in turnover. As per the trading, there was no change in price. The company's stock remained at 21 shillings. But remember, this year, the Stanbic Bank reports showed their increase in profit, and of course, that definitely means something for you. As a shareholder, you might expect a bigger dividend this year. However, the company is still the most traded on stock, #1 stock on the Uganda Stock Exchange in the past 3 months. And in this period, they've recorded at least a volume of 166 million shares on the market, and this is valued at 3.79 billion Ugandan shillings over the period. Now, this And because we're getting into the holiday season, starting Friday, there will be no trading up to Tuesday. So we shall, of course, get to open the markets again on Tuesday. But for now, get to prepare as we get into another quarter, a very sensitive quarter with earnings, with annual general meetings, and so many other things that we are looking up to here on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Getting to move ahead to Nairobi Securities Exchange, we did have Nairobi Securities Exchange lose some bit of value on the old share index on Wednesday. However, the day ended with an improvement of 75% in the volumes and 72% in the turnover, whereas the deals declined slightly by 26%. In aggregate, we had 47 listings participate in trading, ending the day with 18 gainers and 22 losers. TPS East African Serena led the gainers with a 6.79% share price appreciation, closing at 14.95 Kenyan shillings per share. The Bank of Kigali also had a 4.17% price appreciation, whereas Kenya Reinsurance Corporation had at least 3.63% added to the value of the shareholder, and NCBA Group added at least 3.16%. On the losing side, clearly the Nairobi Business Ventures performed poorly with a loss of 9.2%, down to a price of 3.06 Kenyan shillings per share, which was the worst loss in the day. And this was followed by none other than Olympia Capital Holdings with a loss of 7.26%, and the Trans-Century Company losing 7%, whereas Nairobi Securities Exchange itself lost 6.5%. Safaricom continued to rally the market with a total volume of 24.1 million shares traded, followed by Kenya Reinsurance Corporation with a 3.81 million shares volume, and KCB with a total volume of at least 3.37 million shares traded. NCBA also had about 447,900 shares, securing its spot amongst the top 5 movers for the day. The all share index paired at least 0.01 points, and this was down to over about 112.79 points, and this is after a 1-week gain of 0.28% and a 4-week loss of at least 5.37%, and yet an overall year-to-date loss of 11.52%. Other remarkable indices that performed probably well on the exchange were the NSE 20. Currently, the NSE 20 registered a loss of 0.45% yesterday, and the NSE 25 at least 0.12%. And that's the trading from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Remember, you can trade on all these stock exchanges. All you need is to get in touch with the stockbrokers and get the journey of investment across Africa started. Elsewhere in Africa, the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange added at least 42.47 points on their benchmark index after the Wednesday tradings. Now, the Wednesday trading saw 30 listings participate in trading, ending with 12 gainers and 12 losers. The top company was Rainbow Tourism Group and ZB Financial Holdings, as well as First Capital Bank. As per the traders here, Zimbabwe came out as the highest volume trader with over 1.58 million shares traded. Nigerian Stock Exchange, on the other hand, had a very bad day of trading after losing over 1,000 points on their all-share index. The company had at least over 1,016 points shedded off on their benchmark index, closing at an overall gain, an overall value of 53,000 points on this exchange. In aggregate, 108 listings participated, and there were 11 gainers and over 14 losers on the market in Nigeria. Looking ahead, Johannesburg also lost at least 781 points on the J203, which is the company's biggest all-share index, and this was after a very rigorous day of trading. South Africa is still currently going through a few political or geopolitical challenges that could be affecting actually the trading as well on the exchange. Generally speaking, that was the trading across Africa. We look ahead for the very busy day ahead today, as of course we wind up the tradings for this week and prepare for the Easter season. But let's get to cross over to Wall Street and have a look at the United States stocks. Now, the US stocks were mixed after another hiring report showed a slowdown in a private sector job growth, and of course a separate print showed growth at a US service provider also experienced a pullback. According to the Wall Street Journal, the biggest indices around about 30 minutes past 10 a.m. Eastern time yesterday, the S&P 500 had moved down 0.3%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average added at least 0.1%, whereas the tech-heavy Nasdaq dipped about 1%. According to the data also, the Treasury yields moved down sharply, with the yield on the 10-year Treasury note sliding to 3.287%, and the move came after a weak ADP payrolls report on private sector job growth. Meanwhile, commodities, on the commodities front, the gold futures GCF are hovering at their highest level in more than a year, and nearing a record high amid the signs of softening in the labor market. Crude oil, which jumped on Monday, fell back to hover at around $80 per barrel. And that's it, my friend, from the data here. You can follow for more on our Twitter at Smart24TV and at www.smart24tv.com on our website, and get the latest information. Stick around, there's more of course to come, but remember to check out Altex East Africa. Simply dial *292# and follow the prompts. You will definitely experience the magic at Altex East Africa. My name is Anthony Sabale, and I'm glad you joined me this morning. I'll see you next week, same time and same place. Bye for now.
Smart 24, driving business.